Alright, welcome to another High Elf painting tutorial, and this one we're going to look at the Dragon Princes. Now these guys I painted up pretty quickly, well as quickly as you can paint up something with this much detail. So these guys aren't much more than tabletop quality. Just going to give that disclaimer right now, so if anybody criticizes these. Okay, so using the same paint scheme as the rest of my High Elves, so the Kaldor Sky up to Lothran Blue. Just the basic metals here for the for silver bits. The whites are actually mostly grays with just a little bit of white highlight. The horses I chose to do sort of an off-white, so using the kind of bone colors. Got some flesh tones here, red for the gemstones, and non-metallic gold is how I've done the gold on my high elves. So I'll walk through the steps showing the individual ones, but just to give you a basic painting guide. So the silver, so that's bits on the armor there, some of the chainmail, helmets, that sort of thing. The blue, obviously you can see where all the blue is, so mostly just details in the helmets and stuff. White, so some of the spears, the bridle there, and some bits on the shield and their armor. And then horses, so like obviously feet, mostly you'll see the tails, so just actually I only did these three colors here, didn't actually even do that. Very little of the horse's skin is showing. And gold, again, it's just small details, so just using these, the basic browns there, sort of the warm browns. And gemstones all over the place on these as well. And just the tiniest bit of flesh inside the helmets there. Okay, so what I did is I started off with a gray spray paint, like I do with all of my high elves. And then I did the base coat of silver. So silvers, just basically put it on as rough as I could, as fast as I could, really, is the main thing. In hindsight, I don't know if this part here should have been silver or white, but I did them silver. If it wasn't that, then it would just basically be some of the armor bits and the chainmail. And even the armor bits, you could probably do that something else as well. So there's the 5 of them, base coated with the silver over top of the spray paint. Okay, then after that I used Newlyn oil to wash it, so just bringing down the colors of everything, giving it a bit more shadows and wear on it. Next up is the base coat for the blues. So again, this was kind of rough. As long as I didn't paint on anything that was going to be silver, I was a bit sloppy with that. And same with that banner. That banner ended up being a bit of a nuisance. I didn't paint any design on it, you'll see that at the end, but needed to get these guys done. Got some high elves coming on the way. Okay, so now I'm doing the base coat of the grays, so there's just a bit of the trim there on the, whatever that's called, part of his cloak, bits there on the bridle, and a couple guys have some other details here and there. And on the shield as well. Okay, now I'm doing the base coat for the golds, and there's our 5 guys all lined up. Kind of base coat's basically done. I didn't do this flesh till later, but otherwise base coat's done. Okay, so I'm starting to highlight up the blues now, so just covering up most of the raised surfaces, leaving the crevices darker, and there you can see a bit more detail. So trying to keep all those shadows in the darker color, but just painting on the raised areas. Okay, so you can see what have I done here. So I'm working on the gray now. This gray is very similar to the previous one, so it doesn't show up that much, but you can sort of start to see that given a bit more tonal variation. And same here. So I left those big cracks or creases there, and they're the darker color, and then just tried to blend other things in reasonably well. Okay, now I'm using this light gray. So this is very, very light gray. Almost looks white in the pictures, and just trying to blend that in with the medium grays there, and give a bit of a look of shadows and blending. So you can see some brush strokes in there. So I wasn't super careful. But the idea was that this is basically this lightest gray and some of these creases here, and trying to blend it just a little bit into the darkest shadows in the middle. Okay, so I'm starting to highlight up the gold bits here with one of my medium browns, And that's the browns are all done, and doing those gemstones. The idea is I painted it black, and then a red in there, and then a light red at the bottom, and just a white dot at the top. That's a better picture there, and then you can see another one up there. So I'm going to try, okay, so here, yeah, we can show the end, these guys, and I'm going to do a rotating video. Hopefully it captures nicely in this program. We'll see what that looks like. Be a bit of an experiment. So yeah, just different views of these guys all ranked up. So I dry brushed the textured base, or the textured paint that I put on there, and added a little bits of static grass. There you can see a bit more of the color I chose for the horses. I wanted them to be almost like a white horse, but wanted to contrast the rest of the whitish stuff on these guys. So yeah, all in all, like any cavalry, they take longer to paint, but these guys I kind of rushed it a little bit more than usual to try to get them all finished up, because the high elves are coming out this weekend, and I want to pick up some of those and paint them up as well. So I had to get these guys off the table into the display case. So there you go, and you can see really rushed it on some of those shields there. And we're going to go into a video here. Hopefully the transition is reasonable. And there we go. So rotating view, a little bit dark, sorry about that, but gives you an idea of what these guys are looking like, sort of in pseudo real life. And yeah, on the tabletop, a lot of the blemishes, the imperfections won't be quite as obvious, but not quite showcase quality. Okay, and then another view here, a little bit higher up. So these guys will tend to have a lot more blue on them, or at least the way I painted them, have a lot more blue than your typical high elves, or at least ones in my army. So these will stand out for that reason, as well as all of the details on the armor. Hope you enjoyed this. Check out my blog and check out my channel for lots more videos.